Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Irvin, also known as Kobuman. In today's video, we're going to prepare for A plus certification exam. If you go to CompTIA.org, you can find these training resources, and you can see here is the link. If you'd like to go to it, you can do so as well and get these free practice tests. As you can see, there are all kinds of different certificates that they offer, and they offer some of the practice tests that you can look at in order to prepare or at least get an idea of what kind of questions to expect during A plus exam certification. All right, guys, if you got one moment, please click the like button. I really appreciate it, and especially if you find this type of stuff useful. Thank you so much, and let's get into it. We're going to go over both of these free practice tests, and the first one is A plus Core 220 1001, and then there is 1002. We're going to go through both of those. There are total 10 questions. So not only will I provide you answers with some of the basic stuff, but also I'll show you what you can do in order to prepare. So if you're looking at these practice tests, they're going to be exact same thing as I'm looking at here. However, if you find a different resource for practice questions, this is a way that I will show you on how to actually figure out how to answer these questions by doing some research, of course. All right. Question number one, which of the following devices provides the portability of a mobile phone and functionality of a laptop desktop? So we're looking for a device that provides portability like a mobile phone and also functionality of a laptop or desktop, if you will. And then first option is tablet, second option is GPS unit, third option as in C is e-reader, and then D is a last option here for a fitness monitor. Of course, we know that we're looking for something mobile, like a mobile phone, so something small. The first thing you think about is a small screen that you carry, and then of course something that works like a PC, right? And the first thing, of course, is tablet. That's the answer. All right, moving on. Question number two, a user brings in a smartphone for repair. The device is unable to send or receive calls or connect to Wi-Fi. All applications on the device are working unless they require connectivity. Which of the following is most likely causing the problem? So keep in mind, the main issue here is there's no connectivity no matter what you do with a smartphone, right? So first option for A is airplane mode, and then the second option is tethering, and then third option as in C is disabled hotspot, and then D as in VPN. So a lot of these things can be confusing to somebody who's not familiar with computers and stuff like that if you're brand new to it. But the key here is actually to look at the overall picture. So the issue here is unable to send and receive calls. So first of all, that means that the signal, cell phone signal is disabled, right? And you're also not able to connect to Wi-Fi. So that's another issue. And of course, all applications and devices are working unless they require connectivity. Connectivity being the key word here. So we got no send receive calls, you cannot connect to Wi-Fi, and there's no connectivity. So what is the first thing that kind of disables all of these things? And that would be airplane mode. Remember, whenever you get on an airplane, they say put your cell phone into an airplane mode, which disables all of these functions that we have mentioned. Tethering, of course, that just allows your phone to be connected or allows your phone to serve as a hotspot or whatever, but that's not the answer. And we got disabled hotspot. We already know what the hotspot is, and then VPN has nothing to do with this. Okay, third question here. A human resources manager requests wireless APs to be set up for the office. A server will manage the wireless settings, and authorized devices should be able to access confidential records over Wi-Fi. Which of the following settings should be configured to meet the requirements? So what is wireless AP? So wireless AP in this case, in this specific situation, is wireless access point, a place where you would just connect your device to a Wi-Fi connection, right? As simple as that. But the requirements for this are that server has to have the ability to manage wireless settings, and authorized devices should be able to access confidential records over Wi-Fi. So we can't just, we have to put another layer of security is what I'm trying to get at, and not just regular Wi-Fi, because we're talking about confidential information. So in order to provide the correct answer, we have to think of what's another layer of security we can add to this Wi-Fi connection in order to make it secure. All right, so here are the options for our configuration. Number A is WPA encryption, and then set up with UPnP and MAC filtering. So if you are not familiar what WPA is, we can certainly Google it, and that's one way to do it, but you've probably seen it. It's just a type of encryption that's used for your password. So if we look at this, we can immediately see that this is basically an acronym for Wi-Fi protected access. So it's a type of access or security access that dictates what kind of password you would use, and there are different security requirements depending on the level. If you're talking about just the regular WPA, that's the first version of it, and it has less requirements when it comes to security connection and the security certifications that are allowed over that network. And with the WPA2, it kind of elevates that to another level of security, meaning that it has to meet certain criteria in which makes that connection more certified in a way, as in that it's more secure. So the password has to be a little bit stronger than usual as well. And then, of course, we can look up what the UPnP is. If we look up what the UPnP is, it says universal plug and play. So do we necessarily want universal plug and play when it comes to a connection that's going to carry, let's see here, confidential records? No, we don't necessarily want, we don't want that because we don't want to allow just random people to be able to just walk up and just plug in and play anything on this connection that we're talking about here. And then, of course, we get MAC filtering, and of course we can Google that as well. MAC filtering, as it says here, it kind of says security method based on access control, and what it deals is that whenever you set up a connection, for example on Wi-Fi, it only allows those specific MAC addresses to connect. So that's a good thing to have. If you want to set up MAC filtering, only those MAC addresses will be allowed to connect to those connections. The way you would set this up is whenever you connect a certain device, you know this is a device that needs to be connected to this router, you can see its MAC address, and you can click to add that MAC address to that, so that way next time, but of course you would have to change the setting. You would have to turn on MAC filtering on later, but with the MAC filtering turned off, this is just a basic way of doing it at home. For example, MAC filtering is off, you will let the devices connect, and then you turn on MAC filtering on and make sure it has those MAC addresses for those specific computers copied over and has the record of it, so that way it doesn't allow anything else but besides those MAC addresses connected, meaning physical addresses of those components. And then we got the next one, which is WPA encryption. So again, WPA is just a basic Wi-Fi protected access, the early version iteration of it, and it's not as secure as WPA2, but it's not necessarily bad either. It's just that it's less of a security and less certified. And then again, we got universal plug and play, and then we got blacklisting. Is simply a list of computers or devices that you blacklist access, meaning that you won't allow these, you block a certain IPs and addresses and devices that you'll just prevent them from accessing this access point. Okay, and then we got third one, which is WPA encryption and infrastructure mode, and then we got also MAC filtering. So if we look at what the infrastructure mode, do we really need this? Infrastructure mode is an 802.11 network framework in which devices communicate with each other by first going through an access point. So there you go. access point. That's something that we should definitely consider as a possibility. And then of course we got MAC filtering, and then for D we got WPA2, infrastructure mode, and QoS. So what is QoS? We haven't talked about QoS. Let's Google it. And it's a quality of service. It refers to any technology that manages the data traffic that reduces packet loss latency jitter on the network. So we don't necessarily have to have this in this type of environment, because this looks for data packets that are dropped to make sure that all the all the data that goes through over the network is has very low packet loss. So we're talking about quality of the network speed. And this is, we don't necessarily need to worry about this in a situation because we're not talking about constant data transfers when it comes to using this access port. These are just people who are going to use it to just connect to the access port, maybe access the internet, and of course they're going to share confidential records over Wi-Fi. All right, so that was quite a bit to talk about, and let's kind of get back to it and pick the first one that we looked at. WPA encryption here, that's fine, but do we want universal plug and play? We don't want that. MAC filtering is cool, but you know, we don't need a universal plug and play, so we're going to say no on A. Number 2, WPA encryption, and again, universal plug and play, we don't need that. And then blacklisting. Blacklisting is not really going to make the difference. This is just mainly good for access points that are getting a lot of connection requests, and this is not going to be that. This is going to be probably centralized somewhere where you're not going to have a lot of people trying to connect to it. So we don't need number 2 or B here. And then we got WPA encryption under C, infrastructure mode, and MAC filtering. So far, this is the best option for us here. WPA, so it's going to be a basic password encryption. It's still going to be secure enough where you still need to have you know, a certain level of password protection. And of course, we have MAC filtering is in the key features here in order to allow connection. So we'll only allow specific computers to be connected to this network. So this is very, very safe to have turned on when it comes to accessing confidential records and only sharing it between things that are connected to this access port. In this case, MAC filtering is very crucial because we're going to only allow those specific MAC addresses and specific devices and nothing else connect to this. And of course, we got that infrastructure mode, which again is just a framework that just basically sets up our access point. So we definitely need that infrastructure mode, and basic level of password encryption, that's fine. And then the last one, again, we talked about this QoS as the last thing, and we don't need the quality of service protocol or setup running at all. So the answer here should be and most likely will be C, and because it gives us all the things that we need and none of the things that we don't want. Okay. All right. Question number 4. Which of the following technologies can be used for wireless payments? So this should be a pretty simple one. So we got NFC for A, we got Bluetooth, we got IR, and then we got LTE. So which of the following can be used for wireless payment? So what is NFC, right? You all know what NFC is. If we Google it, again, this is the way to do anything in case of in case you're studying by yourself. This is how you learn about these things. This is how you come across the correct answer. I know during the test itself you won't be able to do this, but if you're practicing, this is what you exactly have to do. So it's a near field communication, right? That's what it stands for. NFC is a communication protocol between two electronic devices over a distance 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches or less. And NFC offers a low-speed connection with simple setup that could be used to bootstrap bootstrap more capable wireless connections. So NFC, right? It's something that you just simply scan. You just kind of pass it over something. Think of the way you can pay for things using your phone, right? You just kind of flash your phone. You can also have NFC on your card. You just flash the card, and that's a wireless way of payment. And then we got Bluetooth. We all know what Bluetooth is, but is it really good for wireless payments? Not really. And then we got IR, which is infrared. And if we look at that, infrared networks enables computing devices to send and receive data wirelessly within a short range using infrared beams. How reliable is this, guys? And I mean, you can have it. Like think of just like your like whenever you're using your remote on your computer. That's what the infrared device is. You flash it and you have to point it exactly that way. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's certainly not secure. And then we got LTE. We all know what LTE is. It's on your phone, right? It's just an evolved version of 4G internet connection. So, logically speaking, which one of these things apply the most when it comes to receiving wireless payments? And that would be NFC, right? And if we go back to it, we can kind of see that again, it is a near field communication type of protocol that you literally just flash something or put your card against something, it scans it, and it can be done with your phone or just a credit card that has a built-in NFC chip in it. By the way, this is how people steal credit card information sometimes. If they're near enough, let's say you go on an airplane, we're going to talk about airplane again, and you have your credit card in your wallet next to you, and a person with an NFC reader has the pocket on the same side as your pocket where they're sitting next to you, they can clone that. They can scan it and clone your credit card. There are specific wallets that can protect from that. Anyways, moving on to question number 5. Which of the following connector types can be plugged into a device both right side up and upside down? So right side up and upside down. That's an interesting one. First one is a USB. Then the second one is USB-C. Then we got mini USB. And then we got a micro USB. So it's something that basically plugs in either way you turn it. USB, we know the USB is not going to work because if you look at the USB, it only goes one way. And here it is. There's actually a pretty good picture of it. Let me see if I can get a better angle of it. There it is. See, you can only put it one way. I don't know why. I don't even have to explain to you guys. So that's not it. Let me close some of these windows here. So it's not USB, right? We looked at that. And then we got USB-C. That's what that is. I know this is the one, right? We know that this will work, but only from one end. So if we look at the USB-C, that goes either way. Either way you flip it, turn it, it's going to work. But that's only on the one end of it. Well, it depends. If it's just a USB like this, then it goes to regular USB 3.0 in this case. Well, it says 3.1, whatever. It's 3.0. The blue is 3.0. 3.1 is actually orange in most cases. Anyways, this end of it will go either way. So whichever way you turn it, it will fit. And then we got mini USB. If you search mini USB, this is the predecessor of it. Mini USB. This came before mini USB. Mini USB is like the first change of a USB, as in something that you would plug into your phone, for example, to charge, for example. And this is what it looks like. This only goes certain way, so it's not that. And then we got micro USB, which came after mini USB, which is just thinner, but still you have to face it a very specific way in order to plug into your device, and that's how it looks like. No, that's the other one. Here's the mini. Anyways, guys, the answer is USB-C, which is the most recent one, and that's the answer, USB-C. Question number 6. A user wants to build a computer with high-end CPU, plenty of RAM, and high-end graphics card for online gaming. All right. The user wants to verify the graphics card is compatible with motherboard, Which of the following connector types would user most likely utilize to connect the video card to the motherboard? So this is a basic hardware stuff. And let's see. The first option is, and the key here is most likely. Most likely, we got A, PCIe, so PCI Express. We got ISA, and then we got AGP, and then we got USB. All right, we already know what the USB is, and I'm not saying it's impossible. There are GPUs that can be connected over USB, but it's incredibly slow and very unpractical. Usually, you would just be a dongle that lets you push a display, like connect to an external display. That's it. AGP is the predecessor of PCIe, not PCI. PCI slot is something totally different than PCIe. This is AGP, accelerated graphics port. If we look at this, let's see, AGP port. Accelerated graphics port is designed for high speed, a point-to-point channel of attaching video card. So AGP used to be the main way of plugging into your GPU into it, but that's outdated and old technology, and it looked like this. Actually, like this. It's been a while. Maybe this. Man, it's been a long time. It's probably this one. Anyways. All of these look very similar. PCI, it's all these white ones, the regular white ones that you see here, regular white slots. Those are the PCIs. And then we got ISA, which is old technology. And I'm not saying that GPUs weren't used it, but this is so old, and the most likely kind of just falls out of it. The idea of being that most likely just kind of falls away, and it just disappears. It's a huge slot, and you can see here that it's quite a bit bigger than just a regular PCI slot, which is the one right here. PCI is still used in some cases, maybe, but I think it's just gone from new stuff, from new hardware. Just a regular PCI slot nowadays. You may still see it occasionally, but the answer is PCIe. PCIe is, and this is how they look like. This is the most common one. This is what you would see in a lot of computers nowadays. It's just usually two of them in case you want to have more than one GPU connected for Crossfire or SLI or whatever. Basically, if you want to connect more than one GPU. And the biggest tell, I should say, that differentiate this from regular PCI slot is that it's flipped differently. You can see how it's flipped positioning that way. This little notch is actually over here as opposed to regular PCI slot. So the card is inserted slightly different. Okay, so that's the most common GPU slot for a high-end graphics card, especially. And it being a high-end graphic card, do you really want to try to use AGP or just regular PCI? I mean, it's just, it's be ridiculous nowadays. All right. By the way, different versions of PCI are 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, and they're even testing 6.0 right now, although it's not, you can't find that anywhere. Well, the newest one is 4.0 that's available to people to buy, I think. 5.0 not yet, but they were also working on 6.0. Question number 7. Which of the following peripheral types is most likely to be used to input actions into a PC? So an input device. We're looking for something that's input. Whatever you use to control the PC itself. So we got webcam, we got mouse, we got monitor, and we got optical drive. And then it says, which of the following peripheral types is most likely to be used to input actions into a PC? So action, anything that I do. I'm doing an action right now, so that's the thing here. And I'm sure you guys already know that mouse would be the most likely input device here. Okay. Question number 8. Which of the following resource types would be the best suited for saving photographs from a mobile device with a limited onboard storage? So we're looking for a resource type that will be best suited for saving photographs from a mobile device with the limited onboard storage. So we're offloading some data off of just your cell phone, I guess, for example. And we got first option, which is cloud file service. We got B, virtual desktop. We got offsite email, and then we got resource pooling. The first option here, we got cloud file services. If we Google this, we all know what that is. For example, if I go over here and then we got Google Drive, that's cloud file service. Anything that any place where you can upload things to and just have it like a storage. Use that. It's cloud-based storage. That's all it is. Virtual desktop. If you don't know what the virtual desktop is, just a virtual desktop, as in a virtual computer inside of your computer. That's ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? So that's not it. Offsite email. This is totally unrelated. No. It's just simple no. Resource pooling. All right, let's see what resource. This is not a common thing that people do. Resource pooling is a term in IT used in cloud computing environments to describe a situation which providers serve multiple clients, customer, and tenants with provisional and scalable device services. No, we already know that's in it. So what's the most likely here? Cloud file service. So that's the answer, cloud file service. I'm just going to click a button and it's going to automatically put my stuff in, for example, the Google Drive or whatever the Apple alternative is, for example. All right. Question number 9. An engineer's workstation experiences a BSOD. If you don't know what BSOD is, it's blue screen of death, right? This is what it looks like. You get this. Okay? Whenever loading very large CAD files to modify. CAD files, these are design files. These are 3D model files, okay? Used for 3D modeling, but it can also be used for like product development. Anyways, it's 3D models. Which of the following troubleshooting steps should technician take to isolate the issue? So, engineer gets blue screen of death. Blue screen of death means a lot of times, this is what it looks like. The computer crashes and it says it's dumping memory, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times, and most of the time, it's a hardware issue, right? Something happened with the hardware, most of the time. And then here are the first option. Install additional RAM rated at the fastest speed the motherboard will support. So, do we really think that blue screen of death is caused because there's lack of RAM? And we need to set it at the fastest speed that the motherboard will support? I'd say it's irrelevant. Computer didn't crash because it didn't have enough RAM. If it didn't have enough RAM, all it would happen, it would just take longer to load very large files. That's all it would happen. B, perform a hard drive scan to identify and lock out any bad sectors from use. So they're basically saying here, do a defrag on a computer, and that's what defrag does. Defrag basically, locks out any bad sectors from use, and this could happen. This could help speed up the computer, but it wouldn't necessarily fix blue screen of death at all. And C, run a memory test to verify all memory addresses can be reliably written to and read from. Now, here we're getting into something here. Run a memory test to verify all memory addresses can be reliably written and read from. Reliably written and read from. So what we're doing here, we're loading large files. And whenever you're loading something, whenever you do anything on a computer, your computer has to write to RAM, to all memory, has to write to it memory addresses, which is your RAM, or hard drive, and it has to reliably write to it and reliably read from. So if it can't reliably read from, here we get into hardware part of it, chances are we could get blue screen of death, okay? Keep that in mind. Now let's look at D. Increase the size of the swap file to ensure adequate virtual memory is available. Again, if the issue is not enough RAM, then you could increase the size of the swap file, which is the virtual memory. However, doing any of these things would still not cause blue screen of death. Okay? Things would run slower if you don't have enough RAM, and if you can kill your computer by leaving a certain amount of virtual memory. So if you run out of RAM, your computer can crash. There's no doubt about that. But increasing the virtual memory all it does is just creates virtual RAM, and it gives you the ability to just process something that requires more RAM. But virtual memory is automatically set by the operating system unless you tell it otherwise. It's automatically set, and your operating system will automatically adjust this. You don't have to do any of this. The answer here should be run a memory test to verify all memory addresses can be reliably written and read from. Okay? All right. And then finally, we got question number 10. A user is enabled to browse internet websites. So internet websites are not working. There's an issue with the internet. A technician runs ipconfig and sees the following output. So you would do ipconfig command, for example, ipconfig /all. This is the result he gets. You get an IP address, which looks like to be a local address, starts with 192. If you guys can probably see that same thing on your computer. And then we get subnet mask, which is the default subnet mask, which is normal. And then we get default gateway, which is the router itself, providing you a gateway to the outside, which is the internet. So this is the basically IP address of your router or a switch, and through this is how you get to the internet, which again is the location or the IP address for the router itself. And then the technician pings the gateway and gets a reply. So whenever a technician types in ping 192, ping space 192.168.0.54, they get a reply. That means it's working. That means the router itself is working, the gateway itself is working. And then technician then pings the external IP address and also gets a reply. So somehow this technician figures out what the internet IP address for a website. For example, let's say it's Google. All he does is types in command line, types in ping space google.com and gets an IP address. And then he takes that IP address and then he pings it and he gets a reply. That means he can reach it. That means the website itself is reachable, but we are bypassing DNS, which is the main name system, which routes google.com to that IP address that he just pinged. Meaning that google.com itself goes to a specific IP address. And you can get to that specific IP address by typing in the address directly, but when you type in google.com, it doesn't work. For it to work, DNS or the domain name system is used for that. It basically takes your domain name, which is google.com, and then it tells your computer, okay, google.com is actually located over here, and then it understands that google.com is the domain name for it. Okay, here are the options for our answers. Number one is netstat-nbt. So what is netstat command? I mean, we can look at it in a couple of different ways. Netstat is used in Windows as well as in Linux. Here's an example of a Linux utilization of netstat commands. It gives you basically information on TCP/IP, and in this case, this is not something we would do as technician. This is more of an advanced stuff, for example, for network administrators, but it's also used by Microsoft itself. So it is used within Windows. If you, for example, use any of these switches or commands, if you will, we will give you basic, for example, information, for example, netstat, -A displays all active TCP connections and TCP UDP ports at which computer is listening to. And you can do things like display Ethernet statistics, display active TCP connections, but this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about from one point to another, in which case we're mostly worried about not being able to reach a specific website by using just the domain name. In this example, again, google.com. You're not going to be using it. And then we got netsh space int IP reset. Well, let's see what that is. So to reset TCP IP stack in Windows 10. All right. Well, let's look at what's relevant when it comes to that. It's Microsoft. Here we go. We're talking about NetShell utility. This is something that network administrator would be using to remotely reset TCP IP of a device. As a technician, you think I'm going to have access to this? No. And then we got ipconfig/flush DNS. So this is a flush DNS command which flushes DNS or resets the DNS record on your local computer, or refreshes it, if you will. We talked about DNS, didn't we? That seems very relevant. And then last thing, we got NS lookup under D. So what does NS lookup does? Well, let's do a Google on this as well. NS lookup. Let's see if I can get a. Here we go. Microsoft document. Sure. Displays information you can use to diagnose domain name system infrastructure. So now we're getting into DNS infrastructure. This is something that's used by network administrators when it comes to troubleshooting these different type of things. As a technician, you're not going to be doing this. The best thing you can do here is do ipconfig/flush DNS, because we know that this computer can reach the IP address for this domain, and hopefully by updating DNS locally, next time you type in google.com, it's going to fix it. So the answer should be C, ipconfig/flush DNS. All right, guys, that took a little bit longer than I expected. I will do a second part as well, because remember there are two of these practice tests. Here's the second one, 220-1002. And if enough people are interested in this, I will definitely do a follow-up and do the other one. But for now, I'm just seeing if enough people are actually interested in this type of stuff. The reason I'm saying this is because lately there really hasn't been that much interest in my videos, which is honestly a bit confusing to me. But that's okay, not a problem. I understand people got other things to do or other things to watch as well. So, but yeah, let me know if you like this. Leave a comment. I'd really appreciate to know if you want to see the second part of this. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much. You have a good day. Bye-bye.